Yo, what's going on? Welcome to the Part-Time Artist Podcast. This is episode 181. And before I jump into the show, I have a really awesome guest today. Before I jump into the show, I want to let you guys know that I have some links in the description. I had somebody follow through on the Visible link. Shout out to you for signing up for Visible. That is that's a cell phone service. If you need a new cell phone service, it's really cheap. You can already use the phone that you have, and you don't even need a SIM card or whatever. It's literally just a website. You can do it in your bed in like 10 minutes if you need a new, cheaper cell phone service provider. It uses Verizon's network, and it's only like $20-$25 a month. So check that out. That's what I did. I'm only linking it because it's what I use. So it only helps me and my phone bill if you want to sign up, and you get a cheaper phone bill as well. Aside from that, please subscribe on YouTube. YouTube is my passion right now. It's what I'm using to try and empower other creative people. You can watch this podcast on YouTube if you aren't already, and if you are, I hope you are subscribed to the channel. Aside from all of that, check out the link that I have for Camp Punksylvania, and maybe I'll see you there. In July 4th weekend will be Camp Punksylvania in upstate Pennsylvania. It's going to be a 3-day punk festival. It's going to be a ton of fun. You can camp there. You can car camp there. You can just drive up for the day if you want. It's not far from Philly. But yeah, check out the link in there for Camp Punksylvania, and hopefully I will see you there. Aside from all of that, I have a link for DistroKid as well. If you need a link to get your music on streaming services or whatnot. But of course, just stick to Bandcamp. Next Friday, after today, next Friday is Bandcamp Friday. So load up those Bandcamp carts and be sure to purchase on Friday. All right, I have with me a very, very special guest hailing from all the way on the other side of the country. I have a very extremely talented musician by the name of Azadi Aman. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Roger. I appreciate you taking time and for being here.
Yes. Now, right off the bat, something that I learned from listening to your music, going on your website, stalking you a little bit, is that I feel like you and me, we're alike in that we're both, people would probably see both of us as maybe a bit of a weirdo. And, which might be fair to say. So I wanted to right off the bat ask you, what do you think is one of the weirdest things that you do? And I came up with this question because I was walking around my neighborhood the other day, and I don't know when or why I started doing this, but I am somebody when I'm walking on the sidewalk and I see a worm on the sidewalk, fighting for its life, I always pick it up and I throw it in the grass. And I was like, this is probably one of the weirdest things that I do, is just no matter what's going on, I could be eating an ice cream, I'll just pick that worm up and chuck it to safety. And I was like, this is probably not something that most people do. Do you have your favorite weird activity or something that has been labeled weird, maybe from another person or something like that?
That is a great question. I mean, I relate to the worm thing because I do that too. I'm a gardener, and so
nice.
I'm like, hey, that's not weird. So I do that as well.
Nice.
So maybe we're both weirdos. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a gardener, so I'm constantly stirring my compost and poking at worms in
Wow.
there.
Nice. Like
That could
actually
be
tending
weird.
to a garden, or you have a collection of
Mhm.
plants?
Both. I have over
Wow.
100 houseplants, and then
Oh my
my
God.
partner and I have a small homestead with a garden and goats and chickens and a
Oh
rabbit.
my God. Yeah, that's a lot of plants. Yeah, like being a plant person, I think, is becoming the new like crazy cat lady stereotype.
Yep. Yep.
Like it's so funny because especially as millennials, like we went like from generation to generation in this country, we went from like having kids to like, I can't afford kids, I'll have pets, and then it's like, I can't be around for my pets, so I'll just have plants and I'll just kind of like tend to them every so often. Now that's so funny. That's awesome though. But it's becoming, like you said, it's becoming more and more common. You know, all of these weird things. Something that
Yeah.
I've discovered, especially with the youth, and I posted about this on Instagram like a little while ago. Something I do here in Philly is I go to house shows, and a lot of them are in college spaces, like college campuses,
Mhm.
and something that I noticed by just being among the youth of today is that everyone is weird. It seems like
Yep.
normal now to be weird. It's normal now to embrace what makes you different. And even
Mhm.
like I was just substitute teaching with 8th graders, and a kid walked in with socks and like flip-flops, socks and slides. And I'm just like, dude, you are the bravest dude I know, because I would not be able to get away with that when I was going to school. Are you kidding me? To stand out
Me
like that?
neither.
Yeah, dude, what? But it's cool. Like I guess people can just embrace who they are and put it out there. And that seems to be something that I'm noticing more and more and digging it. So, first thing I want to talk to you about is we're going to get into a tune here really shortly, and I believe it's the first tune on your record, The Light in Dark Spaces, which is a phenomenal title. This first song is called Letting Go, that we're going to get into, and it's the first song on the record. And I just kind of wanted to know if you can introduce this song for us and also talk a little bit about how this is kind of part one of three, right? You have like a
Mhm.
3-part song kicking off this record. So how can you introduce this Letting Go song to us?
Yeah. Thanks for asking, Roger. So I think maybe it's helpful to back up and share a little bit of my own story and my own
Yeah,
journey, and that will add some context and some color
cool.
to that piece. So, um, I was born super premature in the late 80s at 1 pound 11 ounces
Oh my
at
God.
25 weeks gestation, and had to be in the neonatal intensive care unit for the first like 9 months of my life.
Mm,
And every time the doctors took me off the respirator, my airway would collapse and I wouldn't be able to breathe. Um,
mm.
so what they did was they did a surgery where they put a piece of my rib into my throat to prop my airway open, and that
Oh
piece
my
of rib is
God.
actually
Wow.
still in my to
Wow.
this day. And that the good thing was that surgery worked and allowed me to breathe on my own. The bad part of that was though that they in during that surgery they damaged my vocal cords, so I have scarring on my vocal cords, and they also damaged the nerves on the left side of my tongue. And so that nerve damage made it pretty challenging for me to learn how to speak. So I've
Mm.
literally been playing the piano and making music since before I could talk.
Yeah, that is
So I feel
insane.
like, yeah, thanks. So I feel like music has been a really big part of my life
Mm.
since then, um, and music is really kind of like I like to call it my first language. And in terms of the piece Letting Go, it is a part of a larger 3-part work. And the 3-part work really explores the tension that I've experienced with uh, really, like you shared earlier, like embracing yourself and your full authenticity and just showing up exactly as you are. And then, sometimes you face backlash or people, have questions or whatnot. But then the third part of that movement is kind of like feeling lucky and grateful for the folks who are supportive and see and understand you.
Wow. Yeah, it's so amazing to hear this kind of journey and to be able to come out the other side and find the positivity and find the light, basically. And I think all of us in some way, shape, or form kind of have to go through that journey a little bit. And I remember when I because I really listen to the music that I get when I'm doing the show, and sometimes I'll put on the song and I'll just be doing chores around the house, and I remember putting on the album, and it's what's incredible about it is you can say so much without saying a word in this album. And I'm vacuuming around the house, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put on the album now, because I was listening to the singles, and I put on the album, and I just kind of had to park the vacuum and sit for a minute, because as soon as it starts, it's just so introspective, and there's just there's energy behind the way that you play the piano, and I think it's so apparent and so powerful. And I just want to share this first tune right away here. This is part 1 of the 3-part series. This part is called Letting Go. Check it out. All right, that tune was called Letting Go, and it is so moving. We're really going heavy here today, and I kind of need it. We all kind of need it. We need to heal. Let's just be real. Like, we need music and art and things that heal. And that was partially, for me, what I loved about this album title, The Light and Dark Spaces. Can you talk a little bit about your album title and what it means to you, and just break it down for what your perspective is on it?
Yeah, absolutely. The album, The Light and Dark Spaces, really chronicles 2 years of my life from I guess it was 2018, 2017, 2018 to 2019. So it's been a little bit. But the album really chronicles. It's kind of like snapshots from that time period in my life. I really explore embracing authenticity in the first three tracks, and then the latter half of the album. There's I think a 5-part suite that's dedicated to my beloved dog Star, who's no longer in this form. He's since passed. But those two larger works really chronicle some pivotal moments in my own life, and I think really one of the things that I'm constantly exploring is how to um, sit with and be with pain, and hopefully transform that pain into something that is beautiful, or if at least not beautiful, something that um, where the pain isn't stuck anymore, where it's moving
Yeah.
through me into a different form.
Yeah. If the energy flows, it's not just being covered up or repressed or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool to see also other people kind of doing healing work, doing energy work, and using art as that intentionally. You know, because there's a lot of people that make music, and music will naturally heal people, but a lot of times the intention is not always there for that, you know, especially with rock music or whatever. A lot of music is about having fun. So, I mean, I know that when I got started on my healing journey, it was so powerful for me to start letting go. And I remember my first conversation with my therapist, especially because I was coming out of a relationship where I was like devastated. I thought it was going to be the rest of my life. And the first thing that this therapist said to me was, Roger, you're going to need to start letting go. You need to let her go. And in my head, I was like, what does that mean? What do you do? So what do we do? Like, I just Googled how to let go.
Yeah.
And I just started watching people on YouTube talking about it, meditations, books, and I just really immersed myself with that process. And weeks turned to months, turned to now years of being on that healing journey. And one of the things that I started was like my own YouTube channel and content creating about healing work and self-awareness for artists, because I think that's a powerful thing that happens when we go through this journey. It's like we want to share it with others. We want to bring others on the ship. Like, come on, you know, you can be your higher self, you know.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's why I think this album is so powerful, because it so clearly illustrates how to shift your perspective, how to start going through this journey, and to kick it off with letting go and then get into the acceptance, the gratitude. It's like, oh man, this is just something people need to hear and people need to go through, you know. What was your relationship with letting go? Like, that was how I started on the letting go process. How did you even come to find out what letting go even means?
Mm. Mm.
It's not something we're taught in school, a lot of us.
No, it's not. It is not. It's not something that we're taught in school or that I feel like we talk about often. So that is a really, really powerful, potent question. I think just taking a minute here.
Yeah.
um,
Sometimes it can make you go down memory lane a little bit. And then you're like,
yep,
"Oh my
yep,
god.
yep, yeah.
How much
Uh,
do I want to share?"
yeah, that's exactly where I'm at right now. That is exactly where I'm at right now. Um, I think for me, the act of letting go uh, is a multi-step process, but one of the biggest parts of letting go for me is um, noticing where I'm at in the present moment and patterns that I might be caught up in, or things that maybe aren't working for me or are working for me. Um, and really just like you mentioned meditation earlier, sitting in that space and
Right.
being willing to be like with myself and my higher self and be honest with myself about where it is that I want to go, and
Mm.
figuring out things that are either holding me back um, or different ways that I need to show up and grow and stretch myself to be more authentic or whatever it might be. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's a deep and complicated question, and
Mm.
there's multiple parts of it for me, but the biggest and I think the biggest part is really sitting with myself
Yeah.
and being open and willing to be honest with myself.
Yeah. Because there's so much of growing up that is built on like distraction. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that we're taught is to like unconsciously distract ourselves
Yep.
from bad feelings or things that happened. And there's a difference of like sitting with something, processing it, and then moving on from it versus like
Yep.
having something happen and quickly move to something else, to switch gears
Mm-hmm.
so quickly.
Yeah.
Letting
I
go
think
is
that
a
it's
real
something that,
process. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that, to your point, I think that uh, there is constant distraction around us now, right? With cell phones, with technology,
Sure. Yeah.
with uh, with things like that. That it is a skill that is not easily accessible to some folks, of being willing and able to sit with those difficult emotions.
Mm, that's cool. All right. But let's get into this next tune right now. This tune is called Rhapsody's Rain. Check it out. All right, that tune was called Rhapsody's Rain. And to get your hands on these tunes, I want you to go to azadiaman.bandcamp.com, where you can get access to all the tunes. And Bandcamp Friday is right around the corner. It's going to be the first Friday in June, which I believe is June 6th. Oh, man. No, June 7th. June 7th. I was one day off. June 7th. So load up your Bandcamp cart, purchase on June 7th, and the artist gets all of the cut. Now, something that was also cool of reading about your background was from your website. Such a cool website, y'all. azadiaman.com. That's AZADIMA. No. AMAAN.com. I said it backwards. What has you're playing some shows, you're like a solo pianist. What is it like in your area, Olympia, Washington? What is being a piano player like over there?
There are some small coffee houses that I regularly play at, and other venues in the Olympia area. And Rhythms Coffee is a super sweet spot. They have great local coffee, and the owners are super amazing. And then there's house shows and whatnot too that I'll play on occasion.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm working on. Yeah.
Do you wheel the piano in yourself, or do you have like movers come?
No, I have a keyboard that I can bring to gigs, or if the person has a piano in their house, that's the more ideal setting.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
So fascinating to hear about this, and the gig, y'all, is on the 13th of June. Rhythms Coffee, for those of you in the Washington area. If you're in Seattle, if you're in Tacoma, like just hop in, take a trip over to Olympia. I always love the Rancid song "Back to Olympia." That's what it always makes me think about. What is like? What can people who have never kind of seen this kind of stuff? What can they expect from like a show where they're sitting and watching someone play piano? Like, what kind of vibe or atmosphere is it like? Is it just like really quiet and everyone's just like practically meditating?
Yeah, honestly, that you kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
you kind of hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
So you're just really out here doing God's work, like getting people to heal without them even knowing it. That's amazing. Do you have a favorite show that you've played so far? Where was your favorite show that you've played?
I think about a year ago, I had a super intimate house concert at my home. And invited a bunch of super close friends over, and that was a really, really magical night. Of just music and deep, deep connection.
Yeah, that sounds like a scene from a movie. You know what I mean? Where everyone gathers around the piano, puts their hands on each other's shoulder. That's amazing. Now, lastly, before we get into the brand new song that is out today, what do you have on the horizon? Are you doing more albums, or are you going to lay low, play some shows? Playing by Candlelight is the new single. Is it going to lead to a bigger piece of work, or are we just riding this single out for a while?
That's a great question. I have last fall, I went back into the studio after a 3-year hiatus.
Wow.
And had a number of pieces that I was wanting to record. And honestly, Roger, none of those pieces were sounding right or coming through. And was
Mm.
chatting with my engineer, and he said, like, just, hey, just go in there and have fun.
Mm.
And what I ended up recording was basically an album's worth of improvised music. So Rhapsody's
Oh my
Rain and
god.
Playing by Candlelight are both yeah, just off the cuff, like improvised. Um,
Oh my god.
and I
Wow.
have a number of singles that are going to be coming out that are just part of that larger work. Uh,
What?
yeah, it was it was a really really humbling experience of like we were talking about earlier, like of letting go, right? Because
Letting
like
go, yeah.
I'm sitting in there fighting myself, getting in my own head and in my own way, and just like,
Right.
geez, these songs aren't coming out how I want them to, and I faced this Y in the road of either I could keep trying to record these songs, and you know, time was ticking away. I had a 5 hour block in the studio
Oh god,
and was
yeah.
quickly burning that time. Um, or I was like, hey, I'm just gonna sit and just see what happens and tap into something larger than myself. And I
Wow.
was able to do that. And yeah,
Wow.
super
It's
happy with and proud of what happened, what came through.
yeah, fucking crazy to think about. Um I was just like kind of doing this workshop this morning on how um like I was watching this guy talk about the relationship we have with our thoughts is the most important
Mm-hmm.
relationship, because our thoughts
Yeah,
will, can clog the drain up, and most of the time, in order to, one of the best things to let go of is the attachment we have to those thoughts. All that
yeah,
preparation, oh, I want
exactly.
to do this in the studio, all I want to do,
Yep,
and to really let like divine work and energy flow through. Like sometimes you just need to let go of all the thoughts. And
yep.
something I noticed when I'm listening to your album and listening to the way that you play, and even at times when I'm putting the tracks here into GarageBand, you can see the waveform go from small to big to big to big. And when you're listening to the song, and especially even when I was vacuuming, like there was part of the
Mm-hmm.
song where I just start going hard. I'm like, "Rrr, rrr," and then the next one kicks in, and I'm just like, all right, I can relax. Like it has that energy and movement to it, and you can really tell that you're tapped in when you've been doing these pieces. So it's been such a joy to experience it, to hear about it, to know about your story. 1 pound 11 ounces. Those are angel numbers. Those are angel numbers. I'm not versed in numerology, but I know that 3 ones in a row is a good sign. So, Azadi Aman, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your music with us, and coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Roger. It's been a pleasure.
All right, y'all, and the last song is out today. It's called Playing by Candlelight. Rip on, everybody. Stay creative.